This video is to help you with homework hints for section 2.1.2. So for 226, they want to know which of these fractions are repeating decimals and which are terminating, and how did you make your decision? So you would take your numerator divided by your denominator, in each case, top divided by bottom, do your long division, and see, do they end up being a repeating decimal or a terminating decimal? Or we talked about that on the section 2.1.1. And the key is, again, if we find that you get a remainder of 0, then it's a terminating decimal. It ends, it terminates, all right? If instead you end up with a repeating pattern where you continue to get a remainder, but there's that repeating pattern going on, then it's a repeating decimal, right? So terminating means it ends, remainder of 0. Repeating means it continues to have a remainder and a repeat. And again, don't forget it's top divided by bottom. So like for this one, it's 2 divided by 15, not the other way around, all right? And just like yesterday, you're going to want to put your decimal point into your dividend, up into your quotient, and then add your non-essential zeros as needed to be able to complete your dividing process. All right. For 227, you're going to copy the portions web below and fill in the missing parts. So 5/8, they're telling you is 625 thousandths, which is 62.5 or 62.5%. They want that in words. And you can write it in words based on the decimal or in words based on the fraction. For part B, they're giving you the decimal and the percent. They're giving you the words, and they want the mixed number or fraction. For 228, Lila is making a spinner game for her cousins. She divided it into 8 equal sections and labeled each section with a symbol. When the spinner lands on a flower, okay, her cousin wins a prize. So they want, what is the probability, first of all, of a star? So what is the probability of it landing on a star? Write that as a fraction in simplified form, decimal and percent. Then what is the probability of not getting a diamond? Again, write it as a fraction, decimal, and percent. C, what is the probability of getting the flower? All right, fraction, decimal, and percent. And then if Lila's cousin spins 100 times, about how many times would you expect her to get a heart? So you can see that hearts are 2 out of the 8, which is about 1/4. So if she did this 100 times, how many times would you expect her to get the heart? For 229, they want you to copy these graphs onto your paper and complete the scale by filling in the remaining tick marks. So for example, for A, we know this value is 32 and this value is 64. We did a little bit of this last year, but to remind you, you're going to count the number of spaces between them, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces between them. So first of all, you say to yourself, what is the difference between these two numbers? And then you divide that by 4. That tells you what you're going up by. Are you going up by 4s, by 8s, by 10s, by 5s? So count the difference between, or subtract the difference between 64 and 32. Divide by the 4 sections. That tells you what you're going up by, and then you should be able to fill in those missing numbers. Same concept here, okay? What is the difference between -5 and 0? How many spaces are there? That tells you what you're going up by. Now for part C, keep in mind that the vertical scale is different than the horizontal scale. So vertically, this is 0, and you've got a line, 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 10. So you've got a difference here of 10. Count the spaces down to 0, tells you what you're going by vertically, up and down. Horizontally, a little bit different. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces to get you to 12 from 0. So again, what are you going by horizontally? So fill in the missing parts. For 230, approximately 3 out of every 25 Americans live in California. About 3 out of every 50 Americans live in New York, and about 2 out of every 25 Americans live in Texas. So what state has the largest population? So you have 3 out of 25, which you could write as a fraction if you wanted, 3 out of 50, and 2 out of 25. Right? So if you wanted to, you could write them as fractions, 3/25, 3/50, and 2/25. Get a common denominator. Which one is the largest? And then which one is the smallest population? Then, about what percentage of Americans do not live in any of those places? So once you've got to fractions with common denominators, you could say, okay, what is my total? And that means what portion is not living in any of those states, right? And then once you get that as a fraction, change it into a decimal and a percent. So in other words, 3/25 plus 3/50 plus 2/25, you're going to need to get a common denominator of 50, change them to that, add them together, all right? Then that means how many people don't live in any of those places. That'll be a fraction, and again, change it to a decimal, which makes it easier to change to a percentage. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks.